Issues of youth are always given priority at both national and international fora, with special days specifically set to celebrate them.
As Nigeria joined the rest of the world to mark 2019 International Youth Day, the need for government and other relevant stakeholders to invest in this group of the nation's population is key in view of their status to economic diversification of the country.
Indeed, this perhaps prompted the United Nations to focus on transforming education as a theme for this year's commemoration, which is part of the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, as contained in the Goals number 4 of the SDGs 2030.
And so, Kieran, the questions we ask is, so which area do we invest more in our youth to be able to achieve the SDGs and attain economic development that Nigeria is yearning for? What kind of skills should be imparted on the youths to make them self-reliant and relevant to the society with a view to transforming the country? These are some of the issues we intend to raise with our guests as we discuss investing in youth in Nigeria. Thank you so much for joining us on today's edition of Good Morning Nigeria. Of course, we are broadcasting live in Abuja on the network service of the NTA. I am Jumbo Yusuf.
And I am Kieran Umayo, also welcoming you to this edition of Good Morning Nigeria on the Nigerian Television Authority, live from the capital city of Abuja. As always, the other segments will form part of our package this morning, and we'll bring into you, as always, the newspaper review, business, sports, and others. So the morning news is right now with Ifeoma Ojinta. Good morning, Ifeoma.
Good morning, Kieran. Good morning, Jumai. And here is the morning news. Leader of proscribed Islamic movement in Nigeria, Ibrahim El-Zazaki, and his wife, Zinat, left the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, for medical treatment in India. This followed the ruling of the Kaduna State High Court granting leave to the leader of IMN to seek to travel to India to seek for medical attention. The traditional Hawan Daushe Daba in Kano was observed in a peaceful atmosphere with President of Guinea, Alpha Condé, and Governor Abdullahi Umar Ganduji, as well as top government functionaries in attendance. Emir Muhammadu Sanusi II maintained the style of riding a she-camel for the 2019 Daba.
To be missed. We need to be part of it always.
Meanwhile, Governor Aminu Waziri Tambawal of Sokoto State has pledged to end the current security challenge in some parts of the state. The governor said this while on Salah homage to the Sultan of Sokoto at his palace. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, celebrated the Eid al-Kabir festival with the troops of Operation Lafia Doli in the northeastern part of the country.
Our commitment to our collective peace and security, as well as the stability of Nigeria, remains resolute and unshaken.
We am seeing things were going smoothly. The operation is going smoothly now. By God's grace, by before next year, Boko Haram is going to turn to a story by God's grace.
And the Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar, has advised officers and men of the Nigerian Air Force not to be distracted by fake news on the social media. The Chief of Air Staff gave the advice in Yola, Adamawa State at a Salah launch organized to honor officers and men of 153 base service group of the Nigerian Air Force.
Yes, it is true other challenges have emerged, such as banditry, but even the banditry, they are making substantial progress. And I think that is why I felt that it's necessary for us to take time out.
From the year 2020, whether you are a citizen or indigent or non-indigent in Adamawa State, so long as you are schooling here, we will make sure we pay your NECO and WAEC fees.
And away from the Salah celebration, President Muhammadu Buhari says the federal government will always appreciate those who bring honor to the country, particularly in the areas of scholarship and other laureates. A statement from the special advisor to the president, media and publicity, Femi Adesina, says it is in the light of this that President sees the recent election of foremost mass communication teacher, Professor Raf Akinfeleye, into the World Journalism Education Council as a great feat, being the first African to achieve such height. President Buhari notes that the election of the Lagos University done in Paris, France last week hoists Nigeria's flag proudly once again in the international arena. He urges Professor Akinfeleye to serve diligently in the 3-year term in which he will not only represent Nigeria but the entire African continent. More than 600 participants from 70 countries participated in the World Journalism Education Congress, where Professor Akinfeleye was elected. Chairman of the Northern Governors Forum and Governor of Plateau State, Simon Bako Lalong, wants Nigerians in the diaspora, particularly those from northern Nigeria, to make available their wealth of experience, resources and connections towards supporting development initiatives in the region and the nation as a whole. Governor Lalong, who spoke while delivering a keynote address at the 2019 annual convention of the Zumutang Association, an umbrella body of Nigerians from 19 northern states in Minnesota, United States of America. A statement from Director of Press Affairs to Governor Dr. Makut Simon Macham said, unless the sons and daughters of the region step in to assist in finding solutions to the region's challenges, it will take a longer time to achieve results. Nasarawa's government is diversifying revenue sources towards meeting expectation of the people on massive infrastructure development and improving their social well-being. This new focus is in collaboration between the government and Tax Appeal Tribunal.
This tribunal is not only about passing judgments on issues related to tax, but it's on encouraging other taxpayers to follow the process and to be educated and to understand the importance of tax payments.
And that's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Kirian and Jumai after this break.
Ever since he could hold a bat, Charles wanted to play like his big brother. Victor had skills that matched the best in the land. Never mind, little brother, drink your Dano milk and keep practicing. So that is what he did. And step by step, glass by glass, the boy grew in spirit and strength. Drink your Dano milk and be strong.
Also available in Dano Cool Cow, Dano Slim, and Dano Flavored Milk. Choose Dano. Choose goodness.
Getting around heartburn and indigestion can be tricky if you eat too much. Eat food that is too spicy or greasy, or lie down after eating. Heartburn and indigestion could always be around the corner. When they come, be prepared with Gaviscon Double Action. It works within 3 minutes and lasts up to 4 hours. Gaviscon Double Action. Many causes, one solution.
Protocol and event management are special skills which can only be acquired through training and experience. NTA TV College JOS is organizing a special 2-week course on protocol, event management, and public relations to upgrade the capacities of practitioners. The course will equip participants with modern skills, techniques, and international best practices in protocol, event management, and public relations. Also, a special 4-week intensive course on non-linear editing techniques will run concurrently. The course will expose participants to modern techniques and technologies of non-linear editing. Take advantage of this course to hone your professional skills for premium packaging of your programs and reports. The venue for both courses is the serene and secure environment of NTA Television College, near Old Government House, Rayfield, Jos, Plateau State. Date 19th to 30th August 2019 for the course on protocol, event management, and public relations. 19th August to 13th September 2019 for basic non-linear editing techniques. Course fee 100,000 naira only per participant. Accommodation inclusive. For more information, please call 0803-314-4383 or 0806-980-9807. NTA TV College JOS, training you to be the best you want to be.
Experts call for new approach to mining business with special focus on gemstones. Let's join Kunle Ade for details.
The global gemstone and jewelry market's present worth is estimated at about $300 billion, and it is projected to rise to $433 billion by year 2022, given the current attention it receives from miners. With Nigeria having a large chunk of gemstone deposit, the Director General of the Nigerian Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture, NASIMA, Ayola Olukoni, says solid minerals' contributions to Nigeria's GDP can be improved upon.
Many of our states are mining states. Kaduna, Kogi, Osun with gold, Enugu, coal. We are encouraging them to look at it from the perspective of the possible contribution of the private sector, public-private partnership. We're also encouraging them to set up special purpose vehicle to attract foreign investors into that sector.
In another development, the U.S. trade war with China is having greater effect on the U.S. economy than expected, and the risk of recession is rising. This is coming from Goldman Sachs Group. Goldman analysts said a trade deal between the two countries is no longer before the 2020 presidential election, saying the war is weighing down the economy. The group said it now expects a 0.6% drag on the U.S. economy due to the trade war developments, up from earlier estimates of 0.2%, lowering its fourth quarter U.S. growth forecast by 20 basis points to 1.8%. With business news, I'm Kunle Adeyeye.
Kunle, thank you. We appreciate that business package. And next on Good Morning Nigeria is newspaper review.
And our newspaper reviewer, Bayo Tobi, is in the studio. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria and Eid Mubarak.
Eid Mubarak. Tabakallahu minna wa minkum. Thank you very much. Good morning, Juma.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You know, even yesterday you sounded like an imam. Today you are back again with that. Well, thank you and welcome indeed. We have a number of newspapers this morning to review. Let's begin with the Punch newspaper. The Punch newspaper, above the nameplate of the Punch, we have a funding law breaking may worsen flood disasters. That's a concerned agency. It's on page 24. Federal government blames labor for minimum wage payment delay. You can get more facts on page 9 of the Punch newspaper. 9 Nigerian pilgrims die in Saudi Arabia. Page 10 is where the story is. El Zazaki rejects government jets and takes Emirates to India. It's on page 2. And now, below the nameplate, of course, on the right hand side of the nameplate of the Punch, controversies around celebrated Nigerian physicists World Award. And that's on page 2. Stakeholders fault 9% interest on palm oil loans. It's on page 23. And now the lead story on the Punch newspaper this morning. Policemen killing, that's the kicker. Defense headquarters orders Taraba Battalion to produce kidnapper Wadume. With a rider, killer soldiers moved to Abuja, Army grills commander. The full details is on page 2. Now, at the foot of the Punch, we'll have other stories there. Server, INEC yet to decide on Bayelsa / Kogi pools is on page 19. Balarabe Musa cautions PRP members on Jega. That's on page 19. Tambuwal distributes 70 million naira to Sokoto pilgrims in Mecca. It's captured on page 9. And now, gunmen abduct chief imam's son, 2 siblings. Pages 4 and 5 is where the story is. Father rapes impregnates 18-year-old daughter in Ogun State. It's on page 4. And Buhari Oshomole Tinubu absent from Oyegun's 80th birthday. It's on page 18.
And from the Blueprint newspaper, just beside the masthead on the right, CBN explores new strategies for financial inclusion. You find that on page 33. Nigeria Siemens Power Pact begins in December. That's coming from the Bureau of Public Enterprises, BPE. You find that on page 33. And just below the nameplate, Sheikh Hussaini, North will be ungrateful to hold on to power after Buhari. You find that on page 6. 30 years after, NFF soccer fans remember Okoraji. You find that on page 46. And the bold headlines, at last, El Zazaki, wife, off to India. With a rider, 186 doctors write Buhari. Find that on page 6. And the picture story there is Zazaki on Emirates flight to India. And fun seekers at the Millennium Park during the Eid al-Kabir celebrations in Abuja on Monday. Taraba attack, army hierarchy cautious soldiers and police. You find that on page 6. And at the bottom plate of the Blueprint newspaper, minimum wage, labor to blame for implementation delay. That's coming from the federal government. You find that on page 6. Ogun police arrest man for raping impregnating daughter. That's on page 13. We have empowered 1 million youth in 4 years. Ganduje in Kano, that's governor of Kano State. You find that on page 17. And we will face our sniper from open market. That's coming from NAFDAC, and that's on page 13.
All right, Bear, let's begin by now.
Let's start with the story about Sheikh Ibrahim El-Zazaki and his wife Zinat that left Nigeria yesterday for Mendata Hospital in India. There are conflicting reports from the newspapers. Some said he went in a private aircraft. Others said he went on Emirates. Another is reporting that he rejected a government jet to fly him there. But the fact still remains that the Kaduna State government had indicated that it will not bear the cost of his travel. But all said he departed Abuja airport yesterday for India. This followed the medical leave granted by the Kaduna State High Court on the 5th of August. It's, however, not clear whether Sheikh and the wife met the 7 conditions which Kaduna State had filed at another court. The leader of the proscribed Islamic movement of Nigeria and wife are required to return Nigeria upon being discharged from the hospital. You recall yesterday there was a report about Trade Union Congress giving notification about calling out workers on minimum wage. The chairman of the National Salaries, Income and Wages Commission, Chief Richard Ebule, has provided some clarification. He said the implementation of the consequential adjustment of 30,000 naira minimum wage is due to the unrealistic demand of labor, and that is why it is being demanded. Government has offered 10,000 naira across board as increase of earning for anybody who was earning more than 30,000 naira. Labor said no. The increase from 18,000 to 30,000 is 66.6%, and therefore everybody must be accorded that. So through negotiations, government now said that the consideration were for 2 factors. First, to improve the economic status of those who were earning minimum, and also, secondly, to consider the ability of government to pay. So, the Commission and the federal government provided 9.5% from officers on level 7 to 14 and 5% from officers on level 15 to 17. Labour refused, and Labour said they have come down from their 66% and said those on level 7 to 14, 30% increase. Those on level 15 to 17, 25% increase. And the Wages Commission is saying that it is unfair because others will be getting about 12,000 naira increase across board. But those from level 17 will be getting more than 100,000. And that is not fair. That is not the essence for which the minimum wage. And apart from that, the budgetary provision made in the 2019 budget cannot cover that high demand. So the last offer made by the federal government is that gross on level 7 and 14, 10%, level 15 and 17, 5.5%. This is why there is a stalemate, and TUC is threatening strike. The other story that you read, Daily Trust has actually posed some questions, particularly about the disappearing Bala Hamisu Bala Wadume. He was described by the police as one of the most ruthless and richest kidnapper ever known in Nigeria. The questions that the newspaper is posting are that if the FIB, if the FIB that he was thought to be a kidnapped hostage that was rescued, where is he? The second question it poses is that how could a kidnapped suspect allegedly restrained with handcuffs escape from rescuing soldiers? The paper also says that the 5-star alleged criminal must be produced by the rescuing officers. The paradox is that the gallant Nigerian policemen were tagged kidnappers and executed, while the supposedly rescued kidnapped victim, but actually the kidnapper, in handcuffs, has now melted into thin air. And that is collaborated by the defense headquarters that say that the soldiers must produce the escaped kidnapper.
I think there's more to learn about what actually transpired. And of course, it is important that the defense headquarters and other agencies concerned are taking appropriate measures, to see how they can track the man and, of course, know the truth behind that event. All right, we have Daily Trust newspaper now. Daily Trust newspaper. Below the name plate, we have police killing. Well, of course, we read that in other papers. Panel arrests 5 soldiers at 2 cops in Taraba. It's on page 3. Kano organizes Durbar in honor of President Kunde. It's on page 5. CAC extends 50% cut for business registration fee by 3 days. Page 17 is where you capture the entire story. Now, the lead story is Zazaki, wife off to India for treatment. And on the foot of the Daily Trust, we have Air Force jet neutralizes terrorists in Borno. Page 3 is where you get it. Now, I'm in touch with Oshomole over Edo crisis, says Obaseki. That story is on page 13. And Congo may join Nigeria as Africa's largest oil producers. It's on page 10.
That's good news. And from the Daily Sun newspaper, just below the masthead, 3 DSS officers escort El Zazaki, wife, to India. 1 with a rider, 1 police doctor also in team, with 4 family members of shared leader. You see the picture story there, which is wife and children. Why 30,000 minimum wage can't take off? FG blames labor for delay in implementation. That's on page 10. And tension in China over Nigerian pastor's death. You find that on page 10. And fear in army over policeman's mother with riders. Authorities afraid of reprisal order soldiers to wear mufti while traveling. And PDP governors condemn killing. You find that on page 5 and 6. That's it from the Daily Sun newspaper now.
Now, you recall the story of the 10-year-old girl who was delivered of a baby in Benue. Yes. So there's some good news and some unfortunate news too. The doctors say that the girl now has to use a catheter, and there's a possibility of her developing VVF. But meanwhile, the Benue state government, the Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Development, have now taken over the care of the girl, because the 10-year-old girl can hardly take care of herself, not to think of taking care of the baby. So the government has provided 2 nannies that will work in shift to look after the baby mother and the baby child.
So what has happened to the young man responsible?
The young man responsible has been detained by the police. He's to be charged to court any time from now.
He still hasn't been charged to court?
He's to be charged to court. He has to be charged.
And then we see another one just in the newspaper that Kira read, a man raped his daughter.
Yes, incest. Reported from Ogun State. It's horrible. It's not the first. If within the last 2 weeks, there have been 3 instances of incest reports across the country, some different.
And these are the ones that are reported.
Yes,
because they are all reported ones.
Yes, There are several of girls that are frightened by the ordeal they are going through, that they are not able to come out and talk. Something has to be done about this.
I begin to ask myself, where are we going? What's happening? Yes.
I don't really know. The society, in some aspects, are not really getting it right. Some persons, do think that they can do what they have the powers to do.
Yes.
But as we always say that, well, of course, where your power stops is where another person's begins. And it is so bad that such stories are emanating from Nigeria at this present day of the 21st century. We're talking about incest, people impregnating their children and all of that.
There should be stiffer measures, I think, penalties for these rapists.
Yes. There's also some development from People's Redemption Party, PRP. You recall the news about Professor Atahiru Giga, former chairman of INEC, joined the People's Redemption Party. Alhaji Barabe Musa, who is the board of trustee chairman of the People's Democratic Party, says that he is welcome. However, he feels that his presence in People's Redemption Party will be useful, but care must be given. He says that it's the same Giga as chairman of INEC that got the PRP deregistered. It was a struggle for PRP before they could get recognition. Even when the court gave order that PRP should be re-registered, the then chairman refused, and they almost resorted to contempt of court before eventually it was restored. He said, yes, his presence in the People's Redemption Party is welcome, but it has to be taken with a pinch of salt.
Balarabe is a man that has his ideologies. I've always stood out. When it comes to in the political terrain in this country, he has been very consistent with what he believes in. And Jaga perhaps is going to add more value, to PRP, because he's been in the oblivion for a very long time. It was at his peak, during the MPN and MPP raid. That's in the Second Republic.
I think there's a challenge here. How fair is it for somebody who was an empire for political parties, including the PRP, to now come and join a party? You recall just only last week, a resident electoral commissioner resigned from a state to go and contest gubernatorial election by joining a political party. To play safe in instances, if you have served as a neutral person, particularly in issues of election, so as not to cause doubt in the past action or future instances, they should be stopped from joining that. Yes, there's the right of freedom of association.
Exactly. That's what
but there is a consideration and suspicion that you still have your contacts. Don't forget that a former chairman of INEC is currently being tried on allegedly having received some monies that were meant for induced staff for purposes of election. So these are the nuances that one has to be very careful about that could compromise the past actions and the future actions.
Exactly. Okay, let's go to the editorial for this morning. It's coming from Blueprint newspaper. It's all about business, talking about billions poised for Africa's real estate sector. Now, who grabs these billions are the business moguls in the estate industry. They're prepared, to key into the money that this editorial is talking about. But let me just read a few lines here for us to have a better understanding of what the story is all about. So, the growth and opportunity displayed by a diverse spread of international funds, DFIs, banks, PE firms, institutional investors, and others is evidence that despite apparent indifference in African opportunities, in South Africa boardrooms, the continent's real estate sector has evolved. As Central and Eastern Europe become increasingly popular for South Africa's property sector due to subdued growth potential and their earnings locally, should these funds not be investing closer to home? Now, there's a paragraph here that will let us in. The growth and opportunity displayed by a diverse spread of international funds and firms, institutional investors, and others is evident that despite apparent indifference to Africa's opportunities of what the continent's real estate sector has evolved. Now, the market has moved forward in the past 6 months, and we are thrilled that so many major deal makers will be at the API summit to transact and share their experiences with delegates. But it's a conference bio that's been organized in South Africa. That will take place in October 2nd and October 3rd. And the focus is mainly on real estate business. That there are free funds, that people can key into, have access to, and use it to develop estates on the African continent. So that's what that's all about.
Fine. I think it's a very good idea, but what needs to be done is that best practices should be introduced in the processes of developing our estate. We are currently facing challenges with flood now, and what is responsible for that? And homes are threatened because people have built in floodplains. And most often than not, particularly for us in Nigeria, we should learn from the best practices in the sense that if estates are to be developed, first there should be infrastructure and facilities first before structures are built, so that we will have structures that are built, not later on being subject of demolition again, as we are currently facing with the era of flood.
Now, another aspect of this editorial is the NUC as it clamps down on illegal universities in Nigeria. First, we've discussed this issue several times on this platform, illegal universities in Nigeria, and even illegal universities in other African countries where Nigerians, find themselves as students. We've had such cases in Ghana and other African countries. So the issue now is the NUC clamps down on illegal universities. Is it
the executive secretary of the National Universities Commission, Professor Abubakar Rashid, was receiving the Director General of the National Youth Service Corps, Brigadier General Shiabu Ibrahim, and he pointed out that there are several graduates who come from abroad for which the NUC cannot vouch for the value of their certificates, and therefore that has become a challenge. There is also at least 66 illegal universities in the country. And therefore, the NUC now is working with NYSC to ensure that illegal universities and people who come to want to serve under the National Youth Service Corps actually not qualifying are excluded. And it is practically cleaning the audience table for people who are not qualified and claiming to have the qualifications they don't have.
And as well, many Nigerians will be wondering why those universities were even allowed to get established in the first place. They should have been stopped, from the beginning. Now that some of them has some sort of a stability,
yes.
You're now coming. But
what happened to the graduates of that university? Those that graduated and went for service and all that.
All right, and that's a newspaper review for this morning. We'd like to appreciate Bayo's contribution to the conversation this morning. Thank you, Bayo, for your usual, analysis on newspaper review on the program. This is Good Morning Nigeria, broadcast live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority for the largest TV network in Africa. Now we'll be moving into the nitty-gritty of our show today, but that will be after the break.
They are there at the crack of dawn. They are there busy preparing while we rise for our day. They are there silently, guarding, waiting, listening, and watching. They are there ready in the sky above and the waters below, in the blistering heat of the day, in the dead of night, willing, indefatigable, determined in the defense of the sovereignty of our country. They are our first line of defense and our last. They who have paid the ultimate price in defending us. They are fathers and uncles. They are mothers and sisters and girlfriends and boyfriends. They are brothers and cousins and best friends and neighbors. They are classmates, colleagues, and citizens of this nation. They are our defenders and deserve our respect, our prayers, our thoughts. Nigeria, please support our armed forces.
In Nigeria, there is one sound we need to silence. So let's silence toothache before it starts with Oral-B all-round protection. Its advanced technology helps prevent both tooth holes and gum problems that can lead to tooth loss. It strengthens your teeth, giving them all-round protection. Because the only sound we really want to hear is that of our future. For healthier, stronger teeth in 1 week.
your goods and services on the right channel gives you an edge over your competitors. NTA News 24 has all the platforms for your target audience. The station is on DSTV channel 419, GoTV channel 46, StarTimes channel 101, and Free TV channel 703. With our digital format and wide range, we can reach your customers in next to no time. We are eager to promote your business, goods, and services. So, partner with us for a very rewarding business experience. For more information, please call Henry on 0803-379-0884 or visit our office at NTA Headquarters, Area 11, Garki, Abuja. NTA News 24. News and more news.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria live in Abuja. Let's start our conversation on the issue with a background report on views of some Nigerians on the subject matter.
Well, the government is already doing that. We have the End Power program, we have the school feeding program, we have the various agricultural programs that the government is undertaking to bring development and progress in Nigeria.
The best way I think government should improve in the youth is to give them a very good quality education. Yeah.
A lot of youths in Nigeria now, every day we are producing graduates. There are minor jobs that they can do. They can, because now we have many talent, but we lack capital to start with. Imagine we have a lot of things. There are some natural things that we can do with hand, such like coconut oil, like this eatery, this how to bake, minor things like this, how to produce palm kernel oil, how to produce, but because of capital.
Can assist by giving fund to the youth to assist themselves, and between other things, one or two things, to put it in order to see how to help their life, then that will help us and the country will move, and also the society at large will also develop the more.
And now with us in the studio to discuss the topic, first is Professor Zakaria Leleko Busra. He's a professor of entrepreneurship and e-business, Federal University of Technology, Mina. Good to have you.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, Nigerians.
Yeah, and we also have Remigius Wano. Remigius, the National President, Movement of Progressive Youths of Nigeria, MOPI. It's also a pleasure to have you, Remigius.
Good morning, sir. I am also a member of the Presidential Campaign Council Youth Mobilization 2019 of the APC.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
You're welcome.
We also have in the studio Ibrahim Adamu Abdullahi, Senior Special Assistant to Nasarawa State Governor on Investment and Economic Development. He was also a former Speaker of Children's Parliament. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
Good you're still Nigeria. A president of the children?
Not at all.
We also have Ferdinand Sunday, researcher and development expert, former Vice President Youth in Agriculture. He is currently the Executive Director, Survey and Development Initiative. It's a pleasure to have you join us. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, gentlemen, it's indeed a pleasure to have all of you this morning, and it's interesting that you all have portfolios, that have to do with development at different degrees. But to begin this program, I'd like to come to Professor. What is the age limit of a youth? We have had situations in this country where some persons who are well over 50 years and even beyond have, of course, found themselves under the canopy of youth organizations. Some of them even head such organizations. It's important for us to do this clarification, so that we can have a premise, for this conversation. And of course, if I'm right, Prof. looks more elderly than some of our guests. So, Prof, who is a youth?
Okay, well, thank you for being with Nigerians today. Internationally, nationally, locally, nobody can say this is the age limit, because by research, some will tell you from the point that you are bearing teen as a teenager, you have already started your being a youth. and then move to the level of 40 years. Why 40? We all know that they always say a fool at 40 is a fool forever.
And life begins at 40.
And life begins at 40. It means if you don't realize whatever you are between that time to 40 years, you might likely not get it right. But academically and by research, it's a relationship between our life expectancy. Countries of the world measure their youth when they know their level, their life expectancy. So what is our life expectancy in Nigeria determines who can call him ourselves a youth. So if, for instance, now our life expectancy is 52, and somebody is claiming that he's a youth at 50, so it means he's deceiving. He's already at the tail end. So life expectancy relationship is what as a researcher, I will abide by. But not to set confusion, I will pick and from age of anything 10, which is 13, 14, 15, and I will agree with 40. Religiously, people, God chooses prophets when they are most of the prophets were choosing at the age of 40. So it means your career as a youth has finished. And parentally, also, until somebody reach age of 40, before you can say you can close your eyes a bit as a parent. So from onset up to 40, you are a youth. After 40, you are already in another class.
Okay, essay to Nasarawa State Governor. Let's have your opening comment on this topic.
Thank you very much for having me. I think that all that Prof has said about the parameters for defining youth are correct, but I would add that global best practice, development partners and governments all over the world have identified the age of 18 up to 35 as the youth age. Why do I really say that? I mean, youth is not a static. Youth is just a process, right? So in Nigeria, we see it as some sort of destination, and so therefore there is so much confusion about really what a youth is. A youth is a young person that is growing up, that's full of energy, full of ideas, full of capacity, capability, and abilities. And for me, that's just really how I see it. But I think ideally, from 18 to 35, these are young people and qualify for all those parameters to be called young people.
Okay, good. Let me just want you're a national president of Movement of Progressive Youth of Nigeria. Let's get your own perspective as to who is a youth.
Okay, picking my opinion from the African Youth Charter Policy, it has to do with age, and I agree with them. Those who form that framework between the age of 15 to 35. But speaking culturally, as an Igbo man, as a Nigerian, it is psychological. What you think about yourself. We have had situations where, like you mentioned, Prof said earlier, persons in their early 50s longing for political positions in parties meant for the underaged or the youth. But these persons who occupy, especially national youth leadership positions of certain political parties, you see persons in their 50s being given the position of a party youth leader in 50. So it is psychological what you think about yourself. But personally, I see a youth as a young person with age, advantage, and vigor, as well as strength, prosecuting the cause of societal advancement within the age of 15 to 35. But if we must give mercy to our local culture, we embrace to 40 because of families where persons come from in this country. That's my perspective.
So what's your opening comments on the topic?
Thank you very much, Antie. Thank you, viewers. My perspective on this is just simple. There have not been a very clear definition of youth, per se. That's why you see my co-panelists having these two, figures per se as to what a youth is. However, I will only toe the line of my colleague who says youth are people with strength and vitality, people young and capable with youthfulness in them. So that's my view for now.
Okay. Now, of course, there's no gainsaying the fact that Nigeria has effervescent youth, and you can find them in all strata, of national development. And for us now to broaden, this conversation, let's now look at we have identified who is a youth. What now happens to this youth, growing up from 15 to 35 or 40, as the case may be. And I'd like to come to Ibrahim Ademo Ablahi to open up this conversation on a broader perspective. Now, you know why? Because you were a former speaker of Children's Parliament. And from that outside, you have already started making contributions to national development at that level. And today you're a lawyer, and you are presently the Senior Special Assistant to Nasarawa State Governor on investment and economic development. Now, to what extent, have you been able to channel whatever is available, within your portfolio of your office, towards the towards youth development?
Thank you very much for this question. Yes, indeed, I was in the Children's Parliament, now a lawyer, and then have been appointed by His Excellency the Governor of Nasarawa to come and assist him in driving our investment and economic development agenda. What is really, first of all, investing in young people requires very, very deliberate steps to be taken, especially to invest in human capital development. Human capital development being health and education. Really, there is really no talk about youth development without educating the youth population. Education is integral and it's at the core of any economic development agenda for young people. Now, coming back to what we're doing, and especially my portfolio, the vision of the governor as far as economic development is very straightforward. We want to take Nasarawa State to the elite group of states to be one of the top most competitive states in the country in terms of accelerated industrialization, improved economic opportunities. And who are the beneficiaries of these economic opportunities? They're invariably young people. And that is why in coming up with our economic development agenda, the Nasarawa Economic Development Strategy, our focus is on accelerated industrialization, infrastructure development, human capital development, and housing and urban renewal. And at the core of these development strategies are development of young people. We are building skills acquisition center so that our young people drive our economic prosperity. We are leaving behind a focus on poverty alleviation to now begin to focus on wealth creation. And we want to use our youth demography, our youth population, to be the drivers in agriculture, in solid minerals, and even in housing and real estate. So it's not, and I thank His Excellency the Governor for appointing me in such a young age to drive this enormous economic agenda, because it takes a visionary leader and visionary leadership to recognize that young people themselves must be at the forefront of driving this agenda. So youth development must be deliberate. Youth development is not just about bringing young people to talk about youth affairs or to talk about social media or arts and culture. Youth development is about putting young people at the core of the issues that make up for development of any society. And there is no long-term development goal that can be achieved without the involvement of young people.
Thank you.
Professor, I would like to come to you. Youths, they say, constitute 32% of the population. That's about 63 million. And how critical is the youth to the home society of the country as the current situation now in Nigeria? How critical are they?
Honestly, and in fairness to our creator, and in fairness to the nature, and in fairness to the environment we find ourselves, if we use the word critical, I think it's still understatement. The youth in any country of the world, they are the determinants of success. All where you can go and check the statistics, because this age bracket, if it is wasted, consider nothing going again. Let's pick it from this angle. A person may be successfully being a very lucrative and productive person at the age of 13, 14, 15, 16. For instance, I've met inside the plane when I was traveling to Qatar one time. I saw a boy, a 9 years old. After introducing himself, he told me that he's the breadwinner of the family at the age of 9. And if he introduced me to his father, inside the plane, the father reintroduced him. After all, the father concluded also independently to say, sitting down with you over there is our breadwinner of the family.
What does he do?
He's an artist.
Okay.
Because a youth, you can easily identify his talent. And if you manage that person's talent, quote me anywhere that person is already successful. Go back to Nigeria, 11 years old boy of Abdul Karim. You can attend that he's the breadwinner of the family. In Lagos there, the Lagos state government provided a housing apartment, a very good apartment, 2-bedroom, because of what this boy has done. It's there in record, 11 years old. Bringing the two-parent divorced parents, now is the one that reconsider the family and put them together again. 11 years old boy. You cannot count on numbers of millions we are talking about if they are well managed. Just like one of my brother mentioned here, psychology. A high IQ of a person, you can see creativity from the background of entrepreneurship. Youth are more creative. If you want to test it among your children whenever we are at home. Tell them a particular problem and let them provide solution. You will see something amazing that you never think of. Because they are young, their heart is very, very fertile to think. It's a mind of that particular moment of their life. That is what we should capitalize on in our state. But we are coming to that. I believe by the grace of God, if we get there, it is multi-stakeholders. Era of government is gone. That the government will be the one to solve the problem. Quote me anywhere. Number 7, government is in number 7. We are researchers. We have seen where communities develop, countries develop, states develop. The government role is just to provide the enabling environment, and that's all. Nigeria have been in the public sector right from my primary school up to my PhD. It's an enabling environment they provided. Third Fund, when they provided a platform, all of us, we went for our PhD. When we got there, we saw so many things that are that critical when Nigeria can really invest in an enabling environment. What is there again? Youth. What we should understand is that this economy is youth. I don't pray that I should work throughout my life. It's not my prayer. Work at a time, resign, let other people come in. People change their ages because most of their years it has been wasted. They wasted most of their years. That is why people are changing their ages to make sure that they don't retire on time.
Do you think it is waste or lack of opportunity?
No, this is what we are saying. That is why I say multi-stakeholders. Let me give you one. As a young person, you started your school, the first school is family. And the environment which we consider as nurture. If that family fails, you have missed the first school. If all the roles you are supposed to play at that level, you didn't play, the family did not play it, that person has already missed one. The community where we live, they are stakeholders. I remember during my primary school, anytime we are coming with the results, our report cards, members of the family will stop you on the way to find out. And that is where we are today. It is multi-stakeholders, careholders. People should care for the youth. If we don't care for the youth, it's not just maybe a mere punishment, a serious sanction. So, and we'll be going on like this, but we should remember that policies are there for the government to formulate, execute. So these policies must be effective. And we should have an MIE. We should be able to measure and evaluate policies in short-term period, mid-term period, and long-term period, so that anyone that we're supposed to face out, we should face them out. Youth are very critical. Yeah.
Okay.
More critical.
Okay, we'll be coming back to you, Professor, because you have, according to you anyway, you've carried out a number of research in this area, especially when it has to do with entrepreneurship. We're going to come there because that's exactly what we need to deliberate on moving forward. And let me come to Remy just once more. You are the national president of the movement of Progressive Youth of Nigeria. Of course, you played a vital role as well during elections on behalf of the youth. All right. Governments in this country have always had schemes, programs that are, enunciated to, of course, promote youth development. And perhaps we have not been able to see any kind of, should I say, breakthrough, in terms of national youth development. Ibrahim Adamabulahi mentioned about deliberate. There should be a deliberate, effort to get things done. Now, in your opinion, as somebody who also is a part of the ruling party, what should the current administration do in terms of revisiting schemes and programs designed for youth development in the country?
All right, thank you very much, sir. When the president inaugurated his campaign focus last year before the elections, he said Nigeria is going to the next level. That statement was first made by me with all sense of modesty on June 1st, 2018, when we inaugurated this movement. And we are looking at the conscious integration of Nigerian youths in the power and political circle of this country, where we shall be major contributors as stakeholders in power sharing. You agree with me that before now, what we had every time was what politicians who were aforetime in power called youth empowerment. It is not well intended. The intendment of that program is to galvanize the support of youths towards actualizing probably their re-election bid. You see somebody saying he's doing youth empowerment. You see a master's degree holder, you give him a keke napep. Somewhere in this country, somebody shared wheelbarrow branded during before the elections last year. These are what they called youth empowerment. So taking a paradigm, I am of the view that there should be a conscious tailoring of economic programs intended to, one, recognize the youth bracket of our population, knowing that this is where the bedrock of our economic development is anchored. Also, going to the next level, there should be, just like my friend said, a deliberate packaging of programs for youths. I heard when you were introducing this program, calling it investing in the youth. When you talk of an investment, you know that it is a conscious, a well thought out economic plan and program you intend to run with a certain amount of funds with the objective of making profits. Now, looking at the larger society, if you are investing in the youth, you should be conscious of, one, the capacity of the youth in whom you are investing, the passion of the youth in whom you are investing, and three, his zeal. Is he ready to run in that path before you channel resources? So, it is very much important at this point for government to look deep in formulating programs intending to empower the youth, as the language used to be. Now we are saying investing in the youth. The person in whom you want to invest should be part of the plan. Just like Professor Julius Nyerere of Kenya said, that development cannot be taken to a people in a tray pan. You must involve them in the cause for their own development. So we are asking that in every plan and program of government, at least 40% of the policy framework of that government, including this one led by our President Muhammad Buhari, we should be included.
Are you not included at this level? Are you not included?
As a youth?
As a youth, a progressive leader, and
as a youth, as a progressive leader, I am not yet satisfied. One, I want to congratulate the president for his re-election and the subsequent appointment of ministers. If you check, going by the definition of whom a youth is, we considered age bracket. Of course, you know the Not Too Young to Run Act, which allowed persons between 18 and 35 to run for office of the governor, including that of the president. Nobody among the ministers is 35, between 35 and 18. So we have not been given that conscious opportunity. So investing in the youth, we are talking of a financial investment, opportunity investment, which is like giving us platforms to manifest the latent energies lying fallow in the inside. And also psychological investment. There are persons who want to go to school, but they have not been opportune to get to the peak of bringing out what is lying in the inside. So I think this opportunity calls for a review of the total framework and process.
Can you give us just a template? What we consider a template? That will confront the issue. Frontally. It's like developing an ideology. That the government could take up from now. Onwards. Because of course, what we had in the past is not as if they didn't make impact, but somehow the impact they made is below expectation. And of course, we still have many more youth. We talk about youth restiveness. We talk about people who have low skill and what have you. We even talk about unemployable graduates from universities, people you cannot employ, people who cannot write application letters, yet they are graduates. So what is the template you could prefer as an insider, presently?
As an insider, look for passion. Every young person should discover the purpose for his existence here. You cannot function effectively. You cannot drive your car with another man's headlamp, the headlamp of another man's car. So I am imploring the government, by the grace of God, which we contributed in bringing to bear, bring us close. In terms of educational programs, it's not everybody that should study to PhD level, considering capacity. Those who have the zeal and the passion to get to that peak should be given scholarships. I know sometime a former governor of Rivers State, now minister, who was doing certain programs, giving scholarship to specially skilled students to study specialized courses, not just here, also in some international schools too. tap, and the policy is study, come back, and contribute in our domestic development. So I want this process to be integrated in our educational policy.
Okay, thank you very much. I will now come to Dr. Ferdinand Sunday. Sorry, I'm giving you doctor. You're a researcher and development expert, former Vice President, Youth in Agriculture. That's where I'm coming to. You know, what this government is trying to do is engage the youth in agriculture. 70% of them don't think that is the business they want to do. Agriculture is taking a whole new dimension now across the world. You can farm your produce, you can export them without middlemen. So how encouraging has it been with the youths when it comes to policies implemented by government on agriculture?
Thank you very much for that question. I think before I will address that question, I would like to say something about what my friend here has said. You asked for the template. Perhaps the government may actually use that template going forward to see how they can review their process. But I think my humble suggestion here would be that there should be a selection process, a screening process, a selection screening process for the youth, so that those youth with passion, like he has mentioned, who want to go to school, those with passion that want to engage into vocational skill, those with passion into other field of life, should be able to identify and then place in different positions to be able to see how many number of youths that wants to go into agriculture, for example, how many youths that want to go into education. Because for me, investing in the youth in the area of education is quite good, but it's a long-term plan. However, in the interim, we have, like we have all agreed, youths, numbers out of the school on yearly basis. So how do we now accommodate these youths? How do we now ensure that these youths are not idle, will not be taken to restiveness, and all of this? I think there must be a collection of this youth. There should be a system. Either, I don't believe in committees set up by government, because I know over time they have not been successful. But there should be engagement of private sectors who can segregate these youths into different categories of needs. For those in vocational skill, like I mentioned, we know that, okay, in 2019, we have 10 million youths who want to go into agriculture. And in the same field of agriculture, we have youths. In that 10 million, we have 5 million who want to go into poultry. We have 5 million who want to go into fish farming, vegetable production, all of this, or even other form of skill acquisition. So we'll be able to identify these youth, place them into certain places, and then at this point, development expert will be willing to say, okay, we know this pool of youth in this field, we can invest in them, set up a tracking system that will track their performance and see how we can, over time, see the impact that this had, brought to the economy. So, having said that, I want to also say that the scheme the government set up, they are brilliant. If you look at their conception, if you look at the framework, they are all brilliant. But why have we not been successful in implementing this youth? I think one key element that is lacking is what I've just mentioned. The methodology that is used is not clear. And so I think that the government should look for experts to be able to bring a clear-cut methodology to actually approach it. And one of these is what I've actually identified. As a youth, a former vice president of youth in agriculture, I know that we have several of them who come and say they want to, go into agriculture. Against the backdrop of those who feel agriculture is just the old age way of doing it, and you don't see somebody who is able to buy a car with that. You can't see somebody who live well with it. And we try to first sensitize their mind, unblock that mindset to let them know that, yes, agriculture has a different dimension. Like you said, there's a processing, there's a marketing, there are things that you can just harvest and export. So, to bring my point, we have to begin to look at the way we are doing things. If the government does not know what to do, or they can look for experts who know what to do to be able to actually, deal with this issue. And we have been very successful in doing that.
Let me also quickly add on the template. I think our problem is that for too long we've really focused on this business of youth empowerment, and that is why you have shameless schemes like distributing wheelbarrows to young people in the name of empowerment. But I mean, we should also be shameless about copying from what other people are doing in other parts of the world. We need to focus and rejig the quality of our education. So if we focus on the quality of our education, it means invariably that the quality of the graduates from our schools will improve, and their thought process in terms of what is obtainable in today's economy will also change. Side by side, that government needs to also make a deliberate investment in infrastructure and also creating the enabling environment for businesses to work and businesses to thrive. If you open the economy and you also have a quality system of education, it means that our young people will be very well trained, and when they're out of school, and the type of education that they go through will also invariably expose them to the fact that there are also opportunities to grow businesses. And when they come out and they come into the market, they find different sorts of opportunities. And by the time they see these opportunities, they would have been adequately prepared for the market. And that is why, for instance, in Nasarawa, we're focusing side by side, rejigging the quality of our education and also improving our healthcare system to a deliberate skills acquisition program. You've got to really, really bridge the gap between the workplace and the classroom. And there's really no society that has developed without a youth population actively engaged in skills acquisition. That is how young people will begin to think about business ideas, creating value. If we don't really think of this in a very big way, in a very sustainable way, any sort of piecemeal approach to empowerment is not sustainable. So I think that like what we're beginning to do in Nasarawa, to invest in skills acquisition, open up our markets, let investors come into the market, set up industries, employ our young people that have been adequately trained in various skills acquisition centers, and just really put them in the mainstream.
Exactly. I think here's I was going to actually ask him, as he's now a part of government.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And when other guests are talking about poor implementation of thought out schemes and plans that usually fail during implementation, I was going to come, but he has actually treated that. But gentlemen, the United Nations General Assembly, in November 2014, declared, I think, July 14th or something as a World Skills Day for the youth across the globe. And I raise this because you have come up with this analysis of skills acquisition. Because if you travel outside Nigeria, especially to any of the Asian tigers, I've been in Indonesia, where I saw, a particular government establishment, who are into manufacturing of aircraft. And I had the chat with some of the workers, the field workers there. Some of them never knew any classroom, right? But they are very skillful, highly skillful. You can imagine those who are involved in constructing aircraft. That tells you, the level of skills they must have acquired, before they went into that. So now, replicating such thing in Nigeria, as you said, Ferdinand, is apt to this our conversation. So let me ask Prof again to come in here. We have a NYSC program over the years, and what we know, of course, is that after university education, you have to serve for 1 year. It's a part of social integration, as you say it. Can that also be transformed into a skill acquisition and a program that can enable our youths, even those who are not employable, to now be even employers of labor?
I'm glad I can see we are now coming down to specific now. We have talked generally, and I always emphasize specific. Situation approach is the best approach among the approaches we have. When we are dealing with situations, we have been talking about skills. When we are writing for we are researchers, that's what we call abstract. And in our abstract, we always write keywords. From all what we have said so far now, I have 5 main keywords, which I will point one now, before we move to NYC issue. We have talked about education. How functional is our education today? So we need functional education, and we are coming to that very soon. When graduate or whoever that claims that is educated, if a question is asked, what do you want to offer? That is the question that will tell you whether you are educated or not. Very simple question. Sabbaticals overseas by visiting other universities in the world, being a reviewer. Nobody will care to know what is your qualification. At MIT, for instance, I'm a mentor. And in Harvard, I'm also one of the faculty members in Harvard Business School. Nobody cares to know. What do you want to offer is what the question is. And in the few minutes, if you don't know what to offer, you are thrown out. You just say thank you.
It doesn't matter your certificate.
It doesn't. No. That is education. What do you want to offer? It's a question among 6 Ws.
Well, in Nigeria, it's the paper that matters.
Which is wrong. That is why I heard that you said, why is it that this person posed a particular rhetorical questions? Then why is it that we are not developing? We cannot. Because our focus is on paper. Even where the paper is supposed to be used, there's no merit in the papers. So that is why you see, I'm very happy that you have seen it all, that you see an NYC, somebody has been mobilized to go for NYC. Cannot write an application. What do you expect? The person cannot talk, cannot collate, whatever. So it means every emphasis is on certificate. I never train my children to be a certificate holders. I want them to be sound mind educator. That is what our orientation. Whether you grade them, many grades in the school are not grades, especially now that everybody is focused on then even those that even have the grade, they work towards the grade, not what they want to use the knowledge for. That is it.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Garbage in, garbage out. Intelligent quotient, as I mentioned earlier on, if somebody claims that he's a youth at the age of 52, fine, I will say yes, it can be youth, because your intelligent quotient may define you, that you are very young. You don't know, you are yet to be, yes. If you claim 60, I don't care. You may be 65, you say you are youth, it's okay.
They say life begins at 40.
Even at 70, you can call yourself youth because your intelligent quotient is so.
Yeah.
After defining, and let me go back to skill. Those that are in the corridor of powers, I want to encourage you. Skills, the way we underrate it, we underestimate what we call skills. Skills is not only with hand. When people say vocational studies, vocational centers, incubation center, people always think that this is where you'll be making something. No, please. It is high time we address issues. There are skills that has to do with mental skills,
exactly.
Analytical skills. When you get to an environment, for instance, this is not my first time in being an NTA. I've been on most of your program on the business news. Every time I come here, I see opportunities. That is the way critical minds, we always see opportunities.
Please tell us opportunities here.
There were a lot of opportunities. Because now you can see you are a linkage.
Yes.
You are a linkage. The whole world or Nigeria, this is NTA International. You have embraced creativity that your viewers can be anywhere in the whole world. You are on YouTube, you are on this. You are a linkage. You are a marketer. For instance, Philip Kotler, that we all know as marketer, he mentioned in one of his editions 10 things that they can be marketed. You are marketing in one way or the other. Programs of the government, you are marketing it out. You are a linkage. You are very, very important as a stakeholder. I mentioned stakeholders in the beginning. Let me say, skills should not be only hand. Let me be sincere. I was director of Entrepreneurship Center at one point in time in FUT. When we, as a pioneer director, when we started the center, our motto is minds and hands. Your mind first. You can see anybody who always want to be critical in life. You work on your minds, please. Skills, I want to encourage us and people that are close to people that want to execute plans. We should be able to understand what skills. Definition is very, very important. Skills goes beyond handy things. And my ambassador is here. I'm very happy that you have seen, you are more closer to more of these children before you even assume this position. Can't you see enormous skills that these people have? Honestly speaking, I've seen many of my students. I use my students, we do things together. Sometimes we mention an idea. You see how a particular student will furnish it. Look at this Queen of Catway, a video. You must have watched it. It's one of those, it's a film. It's all about chess playing that deliver a whole community. A mobilizer from that environment discovers some people who have skills in sports. In Germany, next month now, we'll be in Germany on sport entrepreneurship. There are a lot of skills that goes beyond making soap.
Yes.
Making all these sort of things. Back to NYSC. Thank God. Now, the NYSC is a platform, very good platform, just like ITF. I consult for ITF, Industrial Training Fund as well. You see, at that moment, many people, they cannot unlearn. There are 3 things that are key. You have to unlearn, you have to learn, and relearn. Situations will tell you that this is what you have at the moment. Forget about it. Face the reality. That is, you quickly unlearn. When they get to that particular, they should visualize screening. You mentioned something that when somebody you have to screen first. Nigeria, we cannot mobilize. Youth are different, let me be sincere with you. Youth in the cities, that is why when we are talking about issue of agriculture, youth in the city may not understand all these things. Youth are categorized. NYC is a good platform. But when we want to use it as a good platform, we should be very careful. Somebody who is a lawyer, for instance, medical something, you now tell me after my 6 years, 5 years, 4 years or 5 years in engineering, learn how to make shoes. No, why can't we look at what he has already, then formulate what that person, a gap. What is the gap? Technical aid corps, for instance, is another good platform for the country. I say era of aid is gone. We should not talk about aid to other. We can be exporting labors. Nigeria, we are very intelligent. There are people that they are super or hyper talent. One can generate wealth very easy. The NYC is a good platform, but not one template can work. It has to be multifaceted. After screening, passion. Somebody mentioned, one of my co here talk about talent and talk about a way of identifying where is your talent. Interest, passion also. All these things comes to play. When you mobilize me for NYC, I may choose. One of my mentees, I asked, do you want to be an entrepreneur? He said, no. If what you consider as entrepreneur is working on my own, I don't want to work. I want to be a career person. It's a choice. Don't drag that person to industry where somebody will now be talking. No. Identify is or a gap, fill it. Government should identify gaps. Ability to when it's self-knowledge, we all know. Once you have a self-knowledge, I'm always comfortable, I'm always happy with myself. Because if this one did not work, another one will work. So we should prepare our NYC platform very well. We see a situation, let me be sincere with you, after training some people, they give them machine, right there they are selling it. Government have already, they distribute, they will sell it immediately.
Even the food they are giving.
Even the food, so people care because that is no. Yes.
Also, in addition to the NYSC, I'm now talking about all-round skills acquisition. There is also, leadership skills. Preparing, catching them young. And that is why initiatives like the NYSC, the NYSC is a great initiative that needs to be reconsidered. We have also initiatives like the Children's Parliament, the Youth Parliament. Now, practically speaking, I am a product of the Children's Parliament. The first time I ever spoke in public was sometime in 2002 at the World Health Day celebration. I was barely 12, and I spoke, and that was, so to say, the beginning of that journey in leadership. So, but there was the Children's Parliament that government created that we're all a part of, but we were taught to see it as a process. So it is a process in development. We are not government. We are growing, just really airing our views on issues affecting children and young people. So we need to have more of those initiatives. And government needs to be very, very clear about these sort of plans, because if you involve young people right from the start, you train them. And then now to talk about youth participation in governance, we have some political leaders who are very deliberate about getting young people at the forefront of government. One of them is the governor of Kaduna State, Governor El-Rufai. He has a lot of young people driving his government's agenda. And we've also seen a clear example just recently in Nasarawa that our governor has graciously appointed a set of young people to come into government to drive this, because you must catch them young. So in 10 years down the line, somebody who's been really appointed at, very early 20s will now begin to, will acquire the necessary skills in leadership and will be able to, make mistakes, be corrected, and now be at the forefront of leadership. So I think that initiatives such as the Children's Parliament, the NYSC especially, needs to be rejigged and needs to be revamped, because we can do a lot more with our NYSC. There's a lot more that we can achieve with the NYSC.
Exactly. Talking about the youth, Mr. Romanos, when this country started, it started on the sound north. Most of the leaders were young people below 30, early 30s. And most of what we have today in this country was established by this group of young, vibrant young men. What happened along the line? Did our youths go to sleep?
No, that is when politics was being done with a nationalistic mindset. With due respect to our leaders, I don't intend to insult anybody. Certain persons in power, from the age 50 towards 100, they are there for business. If you are in government, if you are an active politician, playing part in party activities towards capturing power for whatever use, especially you should understand that this game is like a relay race. You run, you drop the baton for those coming behind you. You don't keep running consistently with the same baton from one spot to another. You go to House of Reps, you go to Senate, you go back as governor, you come back to the Senate preparing to be president, and you want to engage youths to always mobilize support for you. That is why in the movement of progressive youths of Nigeria, we have certain fundamental beliefs. Just like you mentioned Governor El-Rufai, there are certain leaders who have identified their political culture, that they are in the practice of raising followership. They are in the practice of mentoring leaders with talent. For instance, Governor El-Rufai, he mentioned, was 37 years when he was a city minister. Yeah. The exploits he did in this city, up to now, no other city minister has been able to weigh up to his level. Look at Chibika Mechi. He was 34 years when he became Speaker of Rivers State Assembly. He has raised a plethora of other leaders from the Rivers horizon. And in every area you see him functioning, he makes exploits. The recent is the radical innovation in the Ministry of Transport, talking about the bring a renovation of our railway system, expanding the government economic yield from transport system, securing lives. You cannot tell me that any of the trend on the route within the period the government has revived that area has been involved in any accident. And no life has been lost. So we are asking Nigerian youths, if you must take part in politics, don't do the politics of job man, collecting small money to arrange campaigns for somebody without negotiating what your take.
Negotiating, how do you negotiate your take?
Yes. Like I said, power and politics is like a relay race. Until you're in a race with those running the race, the battle will not be handed over to you. We have identified a set of leaders who have passion for drawing strength in engaging youths. Like Governor Rufai said recently, we must involve young people in government, prepare them, teach them, mentor them, give them opportunity to practice. When they make mistakes, we correct them and allow them to flourish towards the future, because we shall not remain in power. So if you must participate in this game, you follow leaders, you practice with leaders, you work with leaders whose lifestyle has shown consistent encouragement to a succession plan that can be identified, that this man is in the business of, when he is doing this one, he brings this young person close. I say, okay, you learn how to do this. Like his chief of staff is 38 years in Kaduna. Now, a youth, you negotiate your place in power by your conduct during electioneering. What are you bringing to the table as contribution? Are you asking for money? We ran campaigns for the president. At the time we did a what press conference, NTA, you were there. We identified areas where the government, led by President Buhari, has made a shift from the old culture. Of course, you will agree with me that in this country, people are now very conscious to whatever things they are doing. Nobody wants to steal public fund now consciously, except by mistake government money enters your pocket. And when you see it, you return it, knowing that when the president or the government finally traces that money in your pocket, they don't want to know how it entered. What the government is interested to know is where that money was found. So there is a paradigm. In negotiating your place in power sharing, you follow a path that has shown some new innovations, that has a nationalistic mindset. Some NYC members were in Daura 2 days ago to greet the president for Salah celebration. He gave them, I read in the media, 2 cows, 5 bags of rice, and 250,000 naira to buy tomatoes and other condiments. If it were those days when people were empowered to loot, to steal, without recourse to the future of the country, those NYC members will be going home with Ghana must go with billions of naira. So there is a paradigm shift. Identify with leaders who have direction towards the future of the country is a way of negotiating your place.
Yeah, you've not spoken like a politician, like a young politician, but you want that baton to be passed on to the younger generation of Nigerians. But that's, of course, the right thing to do under normal circumstances. Well, this is Good Morning Nigeria, and of course we are deliberating on a very, very important topic this morning, which is on empowering the youth. So if you like, investing in the youth in Nigeria. And as you have all agreed here, especially the guests who have opened up to this conversation, said, look, that there should be a paradigm shift, isn't it? Okay, we'll take a short break now. When we'll come back, we'll be, of course, concluding this program as it were. So for now, let's take a break. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Chief. Good morning, sir. You are here already? No, now my spirit there, my body there for house. What kind of question is that? Were you not the one that fixed this meeting for 8 a.m.? You are now coming by 10 a.m. and start asking me jab questions.
But Chief, now, I'm sorry. Don't you also go late for meetings sometimes? You know now, African time.
No more African time. And no more pancaking of face during office hours. At the end of the day, we will lose valuable time. We will not make progress. If we want to move this nation forward, we must treat business as business and respect time. Change begins with me.
Thank you, sir. I'm sorry. Can we go for the meeting now, Chief?
Better.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
You know, the parenting at one point.
All right, and we're right back on set. And Jumai has the next question.
Yes. I was going to talk about the youth. This year's celebration, United Nations celebration on youth, it's, education, and I seem to not to understand why the youth in Nigeria would allow themselves to be used. We have so many of them indulging in drugs, Yahoo boys and girls, and instead of engaging in valuable ventures, how do we retrace our steps to the founding fathers and what they wanted for this country? How can the youths allow themselves? You are all youths here. I'm sure I'm older than all of you here. Yes, no, apart from Oga Kiran. So you understand, how do we retrace ourselves and make the youth understand that their life depends on them? And it also depends on how they conduct themselves in every aspect of their life. How do we do that?
Thank you very much. Before I will answer this question, I think I need to touch little about why have the youth allowed themselves, or where have we gone wrong? I think because we allow politics, and this discussion, if you allow politics into this discussion, you see how we vary totally from this discussion. And that's what happened when you allow politics to come into the system. So the youth, over time, have allowed themselves engaging into politics and leaving the essential part of their life to waste away. And so to your question, it will interest you to know that we conducted a research on violent extremism in the North Central, which include Kogi, FCT, Nasarawa, Kaduna, and Jos. It will interest you to know the number of youths who are into drug, who are extremists. It will interest you to know the number. And these are people, young people from school. Some, when we interview them, they will tell us they are idle. And so that questions our education system. If these youth are out of the school and yet idle, it means something is wrong. It means that the education did not impact in them any valuable thing for them to also replicate in the society. So how do we address this? Well, like the prof has said, the first point is our family. The family values we must begin to, inculcate family values to our children. The family must do well to train their children very well, because when children are properly trained in the family, they have that sense of, value system in them. They grow out. Even when they find themselves in association outside the family, they will behave themselves. And even when they move there to position of leadership, they will also behave. But as long as the family circle fail, the society fail, our institution will also fail, because the people from our institutions are also members of our society. They are also members of our family. So once this chain is not successful in revamping our system or investing in our youth, to give them proper value, there is no way we can succeed. Then secondly, the government should introduce what I call youth-based policy tracking system. Because scheme, one would say is a government policy, not so. But for me, they are scheme, they are not policy per se. Because if they are indeed youth-based policy, they will be measured. They will see how to track them. If you have given 10 million as you win program to a youth, in 5 years, how do you see how much that youth has invested? Where does he or she invest that money in? How many people has that youth employ? What is the impact? And how sustainable has that money been given to a youth? So all this scheme for me, they are nothing but just a play. So we have to have a government to provide what I call youth-based policy, and it must be tracked so that we have a long-term, plan. So the family should address their own, which family, the society, and the education. And also we must not lose out of, because right as we are now, we are like people, the youth per se, they are like people who are inside a well. We're already falling in a well over time, and we are looking for ways
to escape.
So, and if we have any opportunity from the government, we should make use of the immediate opportunity provided by the government, so that we can. It is not a time for us to begin to say, oh, give condition as to how we are going to be rescued, but we should use the available opportunities provided by the government. The CBN, for example, provided anchor borrowing program for youths in agriculture. So youth should also see that as an opportunity. Thank you.
Okay, seizing the opportunity established by government by keying into the programs or schemes of government, that were enunciated, to, of course, provide the assistance that the youths need. Let me come to Ibrahim Adamablai here, because he's a government man that we have here. And he's also, part of his portfolio is investment and, of course, economic development. He's very apt, What should be the role of the private sector in all of this? I recall just a week ago, thereabout, the Tony Olibolu Foundation, had a meeting here with young Africans, right? And in fact, what he's doing is just beyond investment, because it's almost a career thing, for the younger generation. A chain of, youths in Africa,
leaders.
of course, potential leaders in Africa. Now, you have gained experience over the years, from your childhood, time, having spoken to the world just at 12. What should the private sector be contributing in Nigeria towards youth investment?
Well, first of all, government has no business in doing business. So the economy should be private sector led and private sector driven. That is the way of the new world. So, in fact, the private sector should recognize that there's an enlightened self-interest in developing the youth population, in investing in young people. All over the world, if you go to England or in the United States, multinational companies have graduate schemes in which, they take a good number of young people annually, put them in a deliberate training scheme, expose them to global best practices, and after years, just also release them into the market. So that way, they're contributing, they're training a population that will serve them and also serve the market. Take, for instance, I saw a report that Ernst & Young, one of the top consulting firms in the world, employs about 200 people annually in the UK through their graduate schemes. We need to make sure that the private sector needs to step up to make sure that there's not just employment, but a training scheme that ensures that every year a company that has reached a certain level of growth or balance sheet should have a minimum number of young people that it employs, puts them into its fellowship program, and expose them to the necessary skills, even if it's for a termed contract. And when you train them, you release them into the market, and it serves the whole population. So the private sector is a key player in that, and government must negotiate with the private sector. Especially in subnationals, in state governments, when they come with investments, you have to renegotiate for your young people to say you're coming to our space, you're investing in our community, you must also invest in our people. So how many of our young people are you going to employ? Not just employing them in very low-skilled jobs, but even in your main high-skilled jobs, because we have graduates that are trained, that are educated, that are trainable. So we must, as government, begin to negotiate on behalf of our young people. But the private sector has a big role to play in this, because the economy must be led and be driven by the private sector. What we will continue to do as government is to provide the enabling environment so that the private sector drives this with our support.
Exactly.
Okay, Prof, when you come in
Yeah,
here.
let me come in here. I'm very happy because we are getting to the end, and we have to be specific, more as I've always said. Investing in youth, who are the investors? You have just mentioned one, the private sector. I'm one of the beneficiaries of private sector. My institution has benefited a lot from private sector. GIZ, for instance, formerly known as GTZ. Since 2008, I've been trained on entrepreneurship, and up to this moment, startup is going on in our center, entrepreneurship center, and they have done well with those states that they have picked. Nasarawa State have benefited, Plateau have benefited, a lot of them have benefited. Who are the investors again? Mentors are part of the investors. Nigeria will lack mentorship. We should embrace it. People who, this is what we can offer. Mentor other people. That culture we are lacking. It's not effective. Who are investors again? Pastors and imams. They have a very good platform. And I do tell them that some few that I have access to, they are investors. Every Friday, every Sunday is a good platform. But it's not an era. Gone are the days where somebody will be talking about don't steal. No, it's an era of that we know. All those times are repeated statements. They should go for training and retraining in entrepreneurial sector. There's nothing bad. We are talking about value chain, for instance. There's nothing bad for a pastor to discuss about value chain in agriculture as part of the sermon, as imam on Friday. We have these value chains because he has, and he can offer it. It's a platform for people to be educated. So our imams and pastors, please, they are also part of the investors.
Exactly.
Individual communities, they are very. Look at the case of one basketball baller, that's in his own, because it's environment. People are going to drug pushers and whatever they are into all these illicit behaviors. So in corporate social responsibility, this is the angle I want the companies to come in.
If I might come in,
yes.
This discussion cannot be complete without the power of the social media.
Yes.
Most of the youths are in the social
yes.
media. They 1 million tweets and all
yes.
that. But how have they been able to,
use this opportunity? Yes, it's because tweeting. What are we tweeting?
Apart from the negative.
Yes, because they don't know. Like I mentioned, I always tell people, OYA opportunities. I'm telling Nigerians. Most Nigerians have engaged many people inside the train, inside the plane. Are you aware of OYA opportunities, which you can download on your Google Play Store? Most of them, his answer is no. This is where we have exchange programs. This is where we have some conferences, professional conferences, fully funded. There are philanthropies that have already put their money into all these things. Exchange program, people can go. This is holiday time for our children. People are still employing some teachers to be teaching them 1+1+. Also, the era of that is gone. Let them do new things that can refresh them. Excuse me, sir? Yes, it's good. Social media, yes, like
but
this.
We have a digital economy to invest in. Yes. Look at Facebook.
Ambassador, let me just conclude this.
It was developed and conceived by young people.
Yeah.
If we invest in our digital economy,
excuse me,
there are
let me
young
conclude
people
this point.
who have coding skills, programming skills. We must be able to catch these young people, put them in an incubation hub, expose them to the market.
Redirected.
Yes.
Okay. Just conclude that sort of round up.
Yeah, in my conclusion, individuals at our level, I know numbers of years who must be in an NTA. There are three key things in my own conclusion. Functional education, which is the first E. Exposure. Our people are not exposed. Even what they have this media for, they are not exposed.
Okay, go ahead. Go.
And the last one is experience. Shared experience. Please, gather some people, share your experience with them. These are the three key E's in entrepreneurship.
Thank you very much indeed. Gentlemen, this has been a robust conversation on the issue of investing in youths in Nigeria. Of course, there's no possibility of exhausting all the issues on a particular day, so perhaps we'll have another schedule for this particular conversation. Thank you so much, all of you, for your contributions. First, Professor Zakaria Leleko Busra.
Thank you.
We shared from a wealth of experience. Thank you so much. Professor of Entrepreneurship and E-Business, Federal University of Technology, MENA. And of course, Remigius Nwonu, National President, Movement of Progressive Youth of Nigeria.
Thank you so much. I also advise the Nigerian youths to go for excellence.
Thank you.
In every endeavor.
Thank you so much. And Ibrahim Ademu Ablahi, Senior Special Assistant to the Nasarawa State Governor on Investment and Economic Development. Thank you, Ibrahim, for sharing your thoughts with us. And of course, having a spare time, as a government man, to be here this morning. Thank you indeed.
Welcome. It's been a pleasure.
Ferdinand Sunday, a researcher and development expert and former Vice President, Youth in Agriculture. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
All right. As we conclude this edition of Good Morning Nigeria, let's take you on sports.
The Nigerian senior women basketball